Ashwood, Texas, October 12, 2025, 8:15 p.m. The neon sign of Khan's Bakery flickered in the humid evening air, casting a warm glow over the cracked sidewalk of Ashwood's east side. Inside, Special Agent Daniel Bennett, 48, stood at the counter, his navy suit slightly wrinkled after a long day investigating a series of hate crimes targeting immigrant-owned businesses. His brown eyes, sharp yet weary from 25 years with the FBI's Civil Rights Division, scanned the display of fresh naan and pastries as he waited to buy a loaf for his daughter, Norah, a sophomore at Texas A&M. His service weapon rested discreetly beneath his jacket, his credentials tucked in his pocket, both as familiar as the weight of his wedding ring, worn despite his wife's passing 5 years ago. But as he reached for his wallet, the chime of the bakery's door was drowned out by the sharp bark of Officer Ethan Caldwell, 32, whose hand was already on his holster. His pale face twisted with suspicion. "Don't move," Caldwell snapped, his voice thick with an edge Daniel recognized instantly. Prejudice dressed in authority. "I know who you are." The words hung heavy, laced with unspoken assumptions about Daniel's race. His suit, his presence in a part of town where black men in tailored clothes drew stares. Daniel's hand froze, his training kicking in, keeping his movements slow, his expression neutral. "Officer, I'm a federal agent with the FBI. I'm reaching for my credentials," slowly, he said, his deep voice steady, deliberate. But Caldwell's finger tightened on his Glock, his lips curling, hands where I could see them now. Across town, in the dimly lit office of Ashwood's police station, Chief Maya Torres' phone buzzed with an anonymous text, one that would unravel a conspiracy stretching back 15 years. This wasn't just a misunderstanding in a bakery. This was the spark that would ignite Ashwood's reckoning. Daniel Bennett had not returned to his hometown expecting to face a gun in a place he'd once called home. Born in Ashwood, a sun-baked town of 30,000 nestled in the Texas Hill Country, he left at 18 for Howard University, then the FBI Academy, driven by the memory of his father, Isaiah, a civil rights activist killed in a suspicious police stop when Daniel was 16. Isaiah's death, role justifiable despite conflicting accounts, had shaped Daniel's career, pushing him to dismantle hate groups and expose systemic abuses across the country. Now, at 48, with gray threading his close-cropped hair and a shelf of commendations in his Houston apartment, Daniel was back in Ashwood on assignment, investigating a string of attacks on immigrant-owned businesses, vandalism, arson, threats, all marked by racial slurs scrawled in red paint. He'd stopped at Khan's Bakery on Cedar Street to grab Norah's favorite rosemary bread, a small gesture to make up for missing her last campus visit. Not expecting to become the target of a cop's misplaced aggression, Ethan Caldwell was no stranger to controversy, a 6-year veteran of the Ashwood Police Department. His personnel file brimmed with complaints excessive force, racial profiling, all dismissed by internal affairs under the influence of his mentor, Victor Hayes, the former police chief turned defense contractor. Hayes, now 62, held sway over Ashwood City Council and Mayor's office, his company, Ironclad Solutions, securing lucrative contracts for military-grade police gear. Whispers among officers painted Caldwell as a loyal enforcer of Hayes's vision, a town where order meant keeping minorities, especially successful ones, in check. Ashwood itself was a study in contrasts, a charming hill country hub with artisanal coffee shops and tourist-friendly festivals, but beneath its surface lay a history of segregation and distrust. The East Side, home to Black, Latino, and South Asian residents, was still called the other side by some, a relic of redlining that persisted into 2025. Daniel knew this history well, having grown up dodging slurs and suspicious glances on these same streets. Inside the bakery, the air grew thick with tension. Aisha Khan, the 40-year-old owner, had called 911 10 minutes earlier, reporting a suspicious man after watching Daniel linger by the counter, adjusting his tie and checking his phone, a routine act that Aisha, new to Ashwood and wary after recent vandalism, had misread through the lens of the town's biases. Now, as Caldwell advanced, his boots heavy on the tiled floor, Daniel kept his hands visible, palms open against the counter. "Officer, I'm happy to comply, but may I ask what prompted this stop?" His tone was calm, almost professorial, honed from years of de-escalating volatile situations. Caldwell's face flushed, his eyes narrowing. "Got a call about a suspicious person. You fit the description. ID, now." Daniel knew the description was little more than his race, a black man in a suit, an anomaly in East Ashwood. I'd like to know what specific actions I took, Daniel pressed, his voice steady. Though his mind calculated risks, Caldwell's hand twitched on his holster. You questioning me? Show me some ID, or this gets ugly. The bakeries. Few patrons, a teenage couple sharing a cupcake, an elderly Latino man with a bag of rolls, and Aisha's cousin, Zara, who helped at the counter, froze, sensing the danger. Zara, 25, with quick eyes and a no-nonsense demeanor, stepped forward, her phone already recording. Officer, he's just buying bread, she said, her voice firm but cautious. Caldwell barely glanced at her. Stay out of this, or you're obstructing justice. Zara hesitated, then held her ground, her camera steady. Daniel caught her eye, giving a subtle nod of gratitude, knowing her footage could be his lifeline. Officer Caldwell, he said, reading the name off the badge. I'm reaching for my wallet, very slowly, with my left hand. My FBI credentials are inside. Caldwell sneered deepened. FBI, you people always got a story. The racial undertone was unmistakable. A blade slipped into casual speech. Daniel's jaw tightened, while he moved deliberately, his fingers brushing his jacket pocket. Hands up, Caldwell barked, drawing his weapon, the barrel now inches from Daniel's chest. The teenage couple gasped, retreating behind a display of muffins, while the elderly man dropped his bag, rolls scattering across the floor. Zara kept filming, her hand steady despite her racing heart. Daniel raised his hands, his pulse even. Despite the adrenaline, officer, I'm complying. I'm a federal agent. My credentials are in my left inside pocket. Please allow me to show them. Caldwell stepped closer, his breath sharp and uneven. On your knees, hands behind your head. Don't make me repeat myself. Daniel's mind flashed to Norah, safe at college, and to his father, Isaiah, whose life had ended in a moment like this, under a streetlight on Ashwood's east side. He lowered himself to the floor, knees pressing into the cold tile, maintaining eye contact with Caldwell. I'm complying, he repeated, his voice a calm anchor in the storm. Across town, Chief Maya Torres sat at her desk, her office a bastion of order amid Ashwood's brewing chaos. At 46, Maya was a rarely a Latina woman leading a police department in a town resistant to change. Her dark hair was pulled into a tight braid, her uniform crisp, reflecting the discipline that had carried her through a career marked by skepticism from colleagues and outright hostility from some residents. She and Daniel had been inseparable. At Howard University, bonding over shared dreams of justice in a world that often denied it. When Daniel joined the FBI, Maya returned to Ashwood, determined to reform its police force from within. Her rise to chief had been a battle against an old guard led by Victor Hayes, who'd retired 8 years ago, but still pulled strings through his allies. Now, as her phone buzzed with an anonymous text, check Khan's Bakery, Caldwell's. About to screw up big. Hayes is behind it. Dig deeper. She stood, grabbing her keys. The message was cryptic, but Maya trusted her instincts. This was no routine call. Back at the bakery, the situation spiraled. Caldwell, his weapon still trained, on Daniel, keyed his radio. Dispatch, this is Officer Caldwell. Got a suspect at Khan's Bakery claiming to be FBI, requesting backup. His tone dripped with disbelief, as if Daniel's claim was absurd. Daniel noted the body camera on Caldwell's chest, its red light off, a violation of Maya's strict policy. Officer, your body camera is deactivated, Daniel said, his voice carrying for Zara's recording. Policy requires it during civilian interactions. Caldwell's eyes flashed with anger, but he didn't respond, his grip tightening on his gun. Zara called out, I know this man. He's a regular. He's never caused trouble. Caldwell rounded on her. I said stay out of it, or you're next. Zara's jaw tightened, but she kept filming, her courage a quiet defiance. The bakery's glass door swung open, and the rookie officers, Lopez and Nguyen, rushed in, their faces tense but uncertain. Lopez, a lanky man in his early 20s, scanned the scene. Daniel kneeling, hands behind his head, Caldwell looming with his weapon drawn, and a small crowd of onlookers, some now filming. What's going on? Caldwell, Lopez asked, his voice cautious. Caldwell didn't lower his gun. Suspicious male, refused to identify, made threatening moves, says he's FBI, but I'm not buying it. Nguyen, a young Vietnamese American, with sharp eyes, stepped forward. Sir, do you have ID? Daniel nodded slowly. Left inside jacket pocket. I'm Special Agent Daniel Bennett, FBI Civil Rights Division. Nguyen hesitated, glancing at Caldwell, who sneered didn't waver. He's lying. Check him for weapons, but don't fall for it. Nguyen approached cautiously, her hands steady, but her expression conflicted. She reached into Daniel's jacket, pulling out a leather wallet embossed with the FBI seal. Flipping it open, she froze, her eyes widening at the gold badge and ID card. Caldwell, she said quietly, showing the credentials to Lopez, whose face shifted from confusion to alarm. This checks out. He's FBI. Caldwell's jaw tightened. But he didn't lower his weapon. Could be forged. Doesn't mean he's clean. Before Nguyen could respond, a siren wailed outside, and Maya's cruiser screeched into the lot. Lights flashing, but siren cutting off abruptly. Caldwell's confidence faltered. His eyes darting to the door. Maya Torres strode in, her 5 feet 8 inches frame radiating authority. Her dark eyes locked on O'Daniel's, a flicker of their shared history late-night study sessions. Protests on campus, a pact to fight injustice passing between them. Officer Caldwell, she said, her voice sharp but controlled, lower. Your weapon, now. Caldwell hesitated, his grip tightening, a muscle twitching in his cheek. Chief. He was uncooperative, possibly armed. Maya cut him off, her tone like steel. That's an order, not a discussion. The crowd, now a dozen strong, held its breath, phone still recording. Caldwell slowly lowered his gun, his face a mask of barely contained rage. Maya knelt beside Daniel, her expression softening for a moment. Special Agent Bennett, it seems you're having trouble buying bread in my town. Daniel managed a wry smile, his hands still raised. Just a misunderstanding, Chief Torres. Officer Caldwell seemed skeptical of my credentials. Maya stood, turning to Caldwell with a look that could cut glass. Remove those restraints. Immediately, Caldwell's eyes narrowed, his reluctance palpable. But he produced a key and unlocked the cuffs biting into Daniel's wrists. Daniel rose, adjusting his suit with quiet dignity, the red marks on his skin a silent testament to the encounter. Thank you, Chief, he said. Rubbing his wrists, Maya took his credentials from Nguyen, examining them briefly before handing them back. My apologies, Agent Bennett. This should never have happened. The crowd murmured, some nodding in approval. Others like a middle-aged white man in a baseball cap muttering about cops just doing their job. Zara stepped forward, offering her phone to Maya. I recorded everything, Chief. From the moment he walked in, Maya nodded, her jaw tight. Thank you, Miss Khan. Officers Lopez and Nguyen collect witness statements and any video evidence. As the rookies moved to comply, Maya pulled Caldwell aside, her voice low but cutting. Your body camera's off, Caldwell. That's a direct violation. Care to explain? Caldwell's face flushed, but he stayed silent, his eyes darting to the crowd. Maya's gaze didn't waver. Report to my office tomorrow morning. This isn't over. As Caldwell was escorted out by Lopez, Daniel caught Zara's eye, mouthing a quiet thank you. She nodded, her expression resolute, but wary, knowing her actions might draw retaliation. Maya turned to Daniel, dropping her formal tone. It's been too long, Danny. Wish we were catching up over coffee instead of this. Daniel nodded, the weight of the moment settling in. Same, Maya. But this isn't just about me. Something's rotten in Ashwood, and we both know it's deeper than one bad cop. By 9:30 p.m., the bakery incident was trending on social media. Hashtags like #Ashwood profiling and #Justice for Bennett gaining traction. Clips from Zara's video showing Caldwell's aggression and Daniel's calm compliance spread across platforms, drawing thousands of comments. Some praised Maya's swift response. Others, including a vocal group of Caldwell's supporters, claimed he was just following protocol. Daniel, now at Maya's office, sat across from her, a cup of station coffee bitter, but grounding iron in his hand. That anonymous text you got, he said, his voice low. What exactly did it say? Maya leaned back, her fingers drumming on her desk. He mentioned Caldwell by name and pointed to Hayes, said it's bigger than one officer. I've been fighting to clean up this department since I took over. But Hayes' influence is everywhere, council, mayor, even the DA. Daniel nodded, his mind connecting dots. His current case investigating hate crimes against immigrant businesses had brought him back to Ashwood after years away. The attacks followed a pattern: vandalism at a Mexican restaurant, arson at a Bangladeshi market, threats scrawled on Aisha's bakery door. Each incident was dismissed by local police as random, despite evidence suggesting coordination. "I've been looking at property records," Daniel said, pulling out his tablet. "The businesses hit are on land targeted by developers. After each attack, the owners sell cheap, and the buyers are linked to Ironclad Solutions. Guess who's their CEO?" Maya's eyes narrowed. "Victor Hayes." Daniel nodded. "And his old deputy, now Councilman Robert Klein." Maya's phone buzzed with a text from Officer Nguyen. "Caldwell's at Rusty's bar with Hayes' crew, talking loudly about fixing this." She showed it to Daniel, whose expression darkened. "They're already circling the wagons. We need to move fast." Maya agreed, but her face betrayed worry. "Danny, my department's split. Half my officers want reform. The other half think Hayes still runs things. The council's watching my every move. If we push too hard, they'll come for us both." Before Daniel could respond, his phone lit up with a call from Norah, his 20-year-old daughter, her voice tight with worry. "Dad, I saw the video online. I'm driving home from College Station now. Are you okay?" Daniel's heart sank. He'd wanted to keep Norah out of this, especially after losing her mother to cancer and her grandfather to a police bullet. "Stay at school, Norah. I've got this handled." But Norah's voice was firm, echoing his stubbornness. "I'm halfway there. This isn't just about you. It's about Grandpa Isaiah, too." The mention of his father hit Daniel hard. He sighed. "Just be careful. Stay at Maya's place when you get here. No heroics." Norah agreed, but Daniel knew her to well caution wasn't her strength. By midnight, Daniel and Maya were poring over files in her office, the fluorescent lights casting long shadows. Zara had sent her video, which Maya forwarded to the FBI's Houston field office for analysis. Daniel pulled up his case notes detailing the hate crimes, 6 incidents in 8 months, all targeting immigrant businesses on Ashwood's east side. The latest, a fire at a Bangladeshi market, had been ruled accidental, but Daniel found traces of an accelerant matching earlier cases. "These aren't random," he said, pinning a map to the wall, red dots marking each attack. "Someone's orchestrating this, and Caldwell's behavior tonight suggests he's involved." Maya nodded, her eyes on a personnel file. "Caldwell's got 8 complaints in 6 years, all involving minority suspects, all dismissed." Hayes signed off on everyone. Their conversation was interrupted by a knock. Officer Nguyen entered, her face pale. "Chief, we got a report from Aisha Khan. Someone threw a brick through her bakery window tonight, with a note, 'Keep quiet. Looks like retaliation.'" Daniel's stomach tightened. Aisha's courage had made her a target. "We need to get her into protective custody," he said. Maya agreed, dispatching Nguyen to arrange it. As Nguyen left, Daniel's phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "Back off, Bennett, or Norah pays." He showed it to Maya, whose expression hardened. "This just got personal," she said. "Hayes is playing dirty." The next morning, Ashwood woke to a media frenzy. Local news ran Zara's video on a loop, while national outlets picked up the story, framing it as FBI agent profiled in Texas town. Daniel, staying in Maya's ranch-style home on Juniper Lane, avoided the reporters camped outside the police station. He sat at her kitchen table, sipping coffee as Maya's wife, Carla, a community organizer, set out plates of eggs and toast. "You just stirred up a hornet's nest," Carla said, her tone warm but concerned. "The East Side's angry, but they're scared, too." Daniel nodded, his thoughts on Aisha and the threat to Norah. "We didn't start this fire, Carla, but we're going to put it out." Norah arrived an hour later, her silver Corolla pulling into Maya's driveway. At 20, she had her father's height and her late mother's fierce spirit, her backpack stuffed with textbooks and a laptop she used to blog about social justice. "Dad, this is bigger than you think," she said, pulling out her phone to show. A thread from a private online forum, Shield of Valor, she'd accessed through a friend's tip. Cops from Ashwood and nearby towns, talking about keeping the East Side in check. Caldwell's one of the loudest voices. Daniel scanned the posts, his jaw tightening at the racial slurs and coded threats. "How'd you get into this?" he asked, pride mixing with concern. Norah grinned. "A friend in my journalism class knows a guy who dated Caldwell's sister." "Not my first rodeo," Maya, overhearing, shook her head. "You're your father's daughter, all right." But this is dangerous, Norah. Stick to research, nothing in person. Norah rolled her eyes but agreed, though Daniel knew she pushed boundaries. By noon, Daniel and Maya met at a diner outside town, a retro spot with checkered floors and a jukebox playing old country hits. The location was strategic, far from prying eyes, with clear sightlines to the entrances, over burgers and coffee. They mapped out their next steps. We need more than Caldwell, Daniel said, spreading out photos of the hate crime scenes. These attacks, same accelerant, same slurs. No forced entry. Someone's got access, maybe even keys. Maya nodded, pulling out a list of officers tied to Hayes. Caldwell's tied with 3 others: Bryant, Delgado, and Walsh. They were all trained under Hayes, and their patrols cover the east side almost exclusively. She hesitated, then added, "There's something else. I found a report from 15 years ago about your father's case. It was buried, but it names an officer who was never disciplined, Victor Hayes." The words hit Daniel like a punch. Isaiah's death had been a wound he'd never closed. The official report claiming he resisted arrest during a traffic stop, leading to a fatal shot from an officer who retired shortly after. Hayes' name in the file wasn't a shock, but it confirmed Daniel's suspicions. "We need to dig deeper," he said, his voice low but resolute. "If Hayes is tied to my father's death and these hate crimes, he's got everything to lose." Maya agreed, but her phone buzzed with a new alert. A second brick had been thrown, this time through the window of Carla's community center, with a note reading, "Tell your wife to back off." Daniel's fist clenched. "They're escalating. We need to protect Aisha and any other witnesses." That afternoon, Daniel visited Aisha at her bakery. The smell of fresh bread mingling with the sting of broken glass. Aisha was sweeping up debris. Her teenage cousin, Zara, helping silently. "Agent Bennett," Aisha said, her voice steady. Despite the strain in her eyes, "I knew this might happen when I spoke up. But I'm tired of being scared." Daniel admired her resolve, but the threat to her family mirrored his fears for Norah. "We're moving you to a safe house," he said. "FBI protection, 24/7. You're not alone." Aisha nodded, but Zara spoke up, her voice shaking. "Why do they hate us? We're just trying to run a business." Daniel had no easy answer, only a promise. "We're going to stop them, Zara. I swear it." Back at the police station, Maya faced a growing divide among her officers. Some, like Nguyen and Lopez, supported her reforms, but others wore small silver pins, a nod to Hayes' influence. She called a mandatory briefing, laying out new protocols, body cameras on at all times, no exceptions, and zero tolerance for bias. "This department serves everyone," she said, her voice carrying her conviction. "If you can't uphold that, turn in your badge." A few officers shifted uncomfortably, but none spoke up. Outside, a crowd gathered, some holding signs demanding justice, others chanting in support of Caldwell. Ashwood was fracturing. Daniel, meanwhile, dug into a box of Isaiah's belongings, delivered to Maya's house that morning. Inside, he found a USB drive labeled Ironclad, its files encrypted but hinting at financial transactions between Hayes and local developers. One decrypted file, a memo dated a week before Isaiah's death, read, "Hayes knows. He's protecting someone big, east. Side's not safe." Daniel's heart pounded. This wasn't just about hate crimes. It was about a system that had shielded Hayes for decades, possibly at the cost of his father's life. As night fell, Daniel and Maya met again at the diner, joined by Norah, who'd spent the day cross-referencing Ironclad's financials. "They've got ties to half the city council," she said, sliding a printout across the table. "Big donations to Mayor Carter's campaign, too. And Hayes is listed as a consultant, pulling in $150,000 a year for security services." Maya's eyes narrowed. "That's how they're moving the money. The hate crimes drive down property values. Ironclad buys cheap, and Hayes' crew gets a cut." Daniel nodded, but his phone buzzed with another anonymous text. "You're digging too deep, Bennett. Next time, it's Norah." He showed it to Maya and Norah, his voice steady but cold. "They're scared. That means we're close." The chapter closed with Daniel standing on Maya's porch, the streetlights casting long shadows across Juniper Lane. He thought of Isaiah, of the promise he'd made to make Ashwood safer, and of the battle ahead. Maya joined him, her coffee in hand. "Think we can do this, Danny?" she asked, her voice soft but resolute. He met her gaze. Their shared history a silent anchor. We don't have a choice, Maya. Not anymore. As a patrol car rolled past, its young officers saluting respectfully. Daniel knew this was only the beginning. The shadows of Ashwood's past were deep, but under the streetlights, he and Maya would fight to bring the truth to light. October 13, 2025, Ashwood, Texas, 6:45 a.m. The dawn broke over the east side with a restless haze. The hill country's rolling hills cloaked in mist that clung to the cracked asphalt of Cedar Street. Special Agent Daniel Bennett stood in the guest room of Chief Maya Torres' Juniper Lane home, the weight of last night's events pressing against his temples. The confrontation at Khan's Bakery, where Officer Ethan Caldwell had drawn a gun on him, had gone viral, with Aisha Khan's video looping on every major news outlet, from local KXAN to CNN. Hashtags like #Ashwood profiling trended alongside vitriolic posts defending Caldwell, painting him as a hero just doing his job. Daniel's phone buzzed with a text from his daughter, Norah, already awake and scouring online forums for more evidence of police misconduct. The anonymous threat from last night back off. Bennett, or Norah Pays burned in his mind, a chilling echo of the danger that had shadowed his father, Isaiah, 15 years ago. The USB drive, labeled Ironclad, sat on the nightstand, its encrypted files a breadcrumb trail to Victor Hayes, the former police chief whose shadow still loomed over Ashwood. Across town, Maya faced a mutiny in her department, with officers loyal to Hayes' old guard wearing silver pins as a silent rebellion. Today, Daniel and Maya would chase the trail from Isaiah's files to the hate crimes plaguing the east side. But a new attack of Molotov cocktail through Javier Morales's coffee shop window signaled that Hayes' network was closing in. Under Ashwood's shattered sky, the fight for truth was becoming a war. The kitchen smelled of strong coffee and sizzling bacon, a fleeting moment of normalcy crafted by Carla, Maya's wife, who moved with a teacher's precision at the stove. "You're not taking on this town on an empty stomach," she said, sliding a plate toward Daniel. Her warm brown eyes held a mix of encouragement and worry, a reflection of her years organizing East Side residents against systemic neglect. Daniel managed a tired smile, his thoughts on the USB drive. Isaiah's cryptic memo Hayes knows. East Side's not safe had kept him up most of the night, each word a puzzle piece in a case that felt more personal with every passing hour. Norah burst through the door, her backpack slung over one shoulder, her laptop open to the Shield of Valor forum she'd infiltrated. "Dad, this is bigger than we thought," she said, her voice urgent, her brown eyes Isaiah's eyes bright. "With determination, Caldwell's crew is planning something. There's a user, Ironchef one, who sounds like Hayes. They're talking about hitting Morales' coffee shop tonight to send a message." Daniel leaned over her screen, scanning the thread. Posts from Ironchef one were cold, calculated, keep the east side in line. "Morales talks too much, shut him down." Another, from a user called Lone Star 22, likely Caldwell, read, "Bennett's the real problem. We need to neutralize him." Daniel's pulse quickened. "Norah, this is evidence. But you're playing with fire. You're not an agent stay out of. They're crosshairs." Norah's jaw set, a mirror of her father's stubbornness. "I'm not sitting this out, Dad. This is about Grandpa, about Aisha, about everyone they've hurt." Carla, wiping her hands on a towel, chimed in, "She's right. Daniel, you need all the help you can get. But Norah, listen to your father and stay safe." Maya, entering in her chief's uniform, nodded, agreed. "Norah, stick to digital digging, no field work." Norah rolled her eyes, but nodded. Though Daniel knew her promise was fragile, Maya's phone buzzed with a call from Officer Nguyen, stationed at Aisha Khan's safe house. "Chief, Aisha and Zara are secure, but Zara's shaken. That break last night had a note. Next time. It's you. We're sweeping for prints. But did the cruiser see near the bakery?" No record in her logs. Maya's face darkened. "Unmarked cruisers don't just disappear, Nguyen. Check GPS data on all vehicles, even off-duty ones. And keep Aisha's location locked down." Hanging up, she turned to Daniel. "This is moving too fast. If Hayes' crew is targeting witnesses, we need to act before they bury the evidence." Daniel nodded, his mind on the hate crime files. "I'm meeting the FBI's Houston field office today to push for a warrant on Ironclad's financials. Isaiah's USB mentioned Hayes and someone big. If he's on their payroll, we'll find the money trail." The drive to Houston was a 90-minute blur along I-10. The Texas landscape a mix of sprawling fields and strip malls under a gray October sky. Daniel's black FBI Tahoe hummed steadily, his thoughts racing through the case, the hate crime 6. In 8 months targeted immigrant businesses on Ashwood's east side. A Mexican taqueria vandalized with slurs. A Bangladeshi market burned down. Aisha's bakery hit with threats. A Haitian restaurant smashed up. A Somali grocery forced to close. And now Javier Morales' coffee shop on the list. Each incident had been dismissed as isolated by local police. But Daniel's evidence chemical analysis of accelerants, consistent graffiti patterns, and no signs of forced entry pointed to a coordinated effort. Ironclad Solutions, Hayes' defense contractor firm, had bought the affected properties at fire sale prices, turning them into chain stores or upscale lofts. Hayes' name appeared in their filings, and Daniel suspected he was more than a consultant. He was the architect in Houston. Special Agent Marcus Reed, a cybercrime specialist with a knack for untangling financial networks, greeted Daniel at the FBI field office. Reed's close-cropped beard and sharp gaze matched his reputation for cutting through bureaucratic red tape. "Bennett, you've kicked up a storm," he said, handing Daniel a coffee. "That bakery video's got DC buzzing. They want this quiet, but I say we tear it open." Daniel spread his files on Reed's desk, detailing the hate crimes and Ironclad's land deals. "I need a warrant for their financial bank records, wire transfers, anything tied to Hayes or Councilman Klein." He handed Reed a printout of Norah's forum screenshots. Reed whistled low. "Your daughter's got nerve, hacking a cop for him. I'll run these IPs through our system to ID the users. But Daniel, if Hayes is as connected as you think, this goes beyond Ashwood. You're shaking a big tree." Back in Ashwood, Maya faced the department on the verge of collapse. The morning briefing was a tightrope walk, with officers splitting into factions. Nguyen and Lopez backed her reforms, while others, marked by silver pins, whispered loyalty to Hayes. Officer Patel, a young recruit with a law degree, reported a breach. "Chief, someone tried to wipe Caldwell's disciplinary records from our server last night. Backups held, but they knew our system." Maya's blood ran cold. "Lock the server down and trace the access. I want names." As Patel left, her deputy, Captain Laura Hensley, a 22-year veteran and Hayes' former protege, entered, her face unreadable. "Chief, the mayor's office is calling an emergency council meeting tonight. They're questioning your handling of Caldwell's suspension. Rumor is they want you out." Maya's jaw tightened. "Let them try. Caldwell's tied to something bigger, and I've got proof." The council meeting loomed, but a more immediate crisis erupted. At 10:17 a.m., a Molotov cocktail crashed through the window of Morales' brew. Javier Morales' coffee shop, sending flames licking up the walls. Javier, a weary 38-year-old with a quick smile, had reported harassment by Caldwell's crew after refusing to sell his property. Now, as firefighters battled the blaze, Maya arrived. Her uniform crisp despite the chaos. Javier stood outside, his hands shaking but his voice steady. "I told them I wouldn't sell, Chief. They said I'd regret it." Maya placed a hand on his shoulder. "We're going to make this right. Javier, you're not alone." She radioed Nguyen, "Get a protection detail on Morales, and check patrol logs for last night. Someone knew his shop was empty." Daniel, back from Houston, got the call from Maya as he pulled into Ashwood. "Javier's place got hit," she said, her voice taut. "Looks like Caldwell's crew. I've got Nguyen and Lopez staking out the east side, but we're spread thin." Daniel's grip tightened on the wheel. "Norah found a thread on that forum. Hayes' people planned this. I'm heading to the safe house to check on Aisha." He drove to the nondescript apartment on Ashwood's outskirts, where Aisha and Zara were under FBI protection. Aisha greeted him, her hands busy knitting to steady her nerves. "Agent Bennett, any news?" she asked. Daniel hesitated, then chose honesty. "They hit Javier Morales' coffee shop. Fire, like the others. But we've got a lead on Hayes." Zara, sitting nearby, looked up from her sketchpad. "Mr. Morales? He's my art teacher's brother. They're not going to stop, are they?" Daniel met her gaze. "They will when we stop them, Zara. I promise." At Morales' brew, Nguyen and Lopez set up a stakeout across the street, hidden in an unmarked sedan. The night was still, the air heavy with the smell of smoke. At 11:52 p.m., a dark pickup with no plates slowed past the charge shop. Nguyen radioed Maya, "Chief, we've got movement. Matches the description of a vehicle seen near Aisha's place." Before they could pursue, A second Molotov sailed through the shop's already broken window. Reigniting the flames, Lopez sprinted after the truck, catching a glimpse of the driver, Officer Bryant, one of Caldwell's allies. Maya, monitoring from the station, called for backup, her voice sharp. All units converge on Morales' brew. Suspect is Officer Bryant, considered armed and dangerous. Daniel, at the safe house, listened to the radio chatter, his fist clenched. He wanted to be there, but Aisha's safety was his priority. His phone buzzed with a call from Reed in Houston. Bennett, we cracked Ironclad's financials. Monthly. Transfers to Hayes, $75,000, labeled consulting fees. And the forum? Iron Chef One's IP traces to a property owned by Hayes' brother-in-law. It's him. Daniel's pulse raced. Good work, Reed. Push that warrant to a judge. We're taking him down. But as he hung up, a loud crash echoed from the safe house's back door. Aisha gasped, pulling Zara close. Daniel drew his Glock, motioning them to stay low. FBI, identify yourself, he shouted. Silence. Then the sound of boots on gravel. The safe house was compromised. Daniel's training took over, his senses razor sharp as he moved toward the sound, weapon raised. The figures in dark hoodies burst through the kitchen, one with a crowbar, the other with a knife. Drop your weapons, Daniel commanded, firing a warning shot into the ceiling. The intruders froze, then bolted for the door as sirens wailed. Nearby, Daniel tackled the one with the crowbar in the yard, pinning him to the ground. The man, lean with a shaved head, cursed as Daniel cuffed him. You're done, Bennett. He spat. Hayes owns this town. Daniel recognized him, Officer Walsh, another of Caldwell's crew. The second intruder escaped, but Walsh's capture was a break, as FBI agents secured the scene. Daniel escorted Aisha and Zara to a new safe house, his heart pounding, but his resolve unbroken. By 2 a.m., Maya had Brian in custody. Caught fleeing the coffee shop fire, the blaze was contained, but the shop was gutted. Javier, standing amid the wreckage, tears in his eyes, told Maya, "This was my father's dream. They can't take that from me." Maya nodded, her voice firm. "They won't, Javier. We're fighting back." At the station, Daniel interrogated Walsh, who sat defiant, his silver pen glinting under the fluorescent light. "You're protecting Hayes," Daniel said, leaning across the table. "But he's not protecting you. We've got your foreign posts, Ironclad's financials, everything. Talk, or you're going down alone." Walsh smirked, but said nothing, his silence a confirmation of Hayes' grip. The next day, Ashwood was a powder keg. Protesters gathered outside the police station, some demanding justice for Daniel and Javier, others waving signs supporting Caldwell and Hayes. Mayor Carter held a press conference, his polished demeanor faltering as he dodged questions about Ironclad. "We're investigating thoroughly," he said, his voice hollow. Daniel, watching the broadcast at Maya's house, shook his head. He's stalling. They're trying to bury this before the council meeting. Norah, hunched over her laptop, looked up. "Dad, I got a tip from a city clerk. Ironclad paid off 3 council members to rezone the east side. Hayes' name is on the contracts." Maya, pacing, stopped short. "That's the motive. The hate crimes are about profit, drive out the businesses, buy the land cheap, build luxury properties." Daniel nodded, his mind racing. "We need witnesses to go public. Aisha, Javier, anyone willing to testify?" That afternoon, Daniel and Maya met Javier at his ruined coffee shop, the smell of charred wood lingering. "I'm done running," Javier said, his voice steady. "My family's been here 20 years. We're not leaving." Daniel respected his courage, but knew the risks. "We'll protect you, Javier, but be careful. They're targeting anyone who speaks out." Norah texted. Daniel found a new forum post. "They're planning a hit at the council meeting tonight. Iron Chef One says, and Bennett." Daniel's blood ran cold. He showed the text to Maya, who called for extra security at City Hall. "We're walking into a trap," she said, "but we can't back down." The council meeting was a circus, with reporters from Houston and Dallas crowding Ashwood City Hall. Mayor Carter opened with a vague statement about community unity. Avoiding mention of Hayes or Ironclad, Maya, seated beside Daniel, whispered, "He's covering his tracks." The room was packed East Side residents, Black, Latino, South Asian, sitting alongside West Side locals, some wearing silver pins, others holding signs for justice. Daniel took the podium, his presence commanding. The FBI has evidence of systemic abuse in Ashwood's police department. Hate crimes targeting immigrant businesses are linked to Ironclad Solutions, led by Victor Hayes. He displayed financial records and forum posts on a screen, each slide a blow to Hayes' empire. The crowd murmured, some in shock, others in denial. Hayes, in the front row with Councilman Klein, stared daggers at Daniel, his face a mask of controlled fury. Aisha spoke next, her voice clear despite her nerves. I've lived in Ashwood for 10 years. My bakery's been my life. When I refused to sell, they sent threats, broke my windows. Officer Caldwell was there the night a cruiser circled my home. The room erupted, some cheering, others shouting. Her down. Javier followed, his voice raw. My coffee shop was burned because I wouldn't bow. This isn't one cop, it's a system. As he spoke, Daniel noticed a man in a hoodie slip out the back. His instinct screamed danger. He texted Reed, check exits, possible threat. The meeting ended in chaos, with Carter dodging questions and Hayes slipping out a side door. Outside, a gunshot shattered a car window, sending the crowd diving for cover. Daniel tackled Maya to the ground, shielding her as he scanned for the shooter. FBI agents apprehended a man in a hoodie, Officer Delgado, Caldwell's ally. With a burner phone and a half-empty clip, the chapter closed with Daniel and Maya back at her house, shaken but resolute. Delgado's phone held text from Hayes. Take out Bennett. Make it quick. Norah, safe but rattled. Showed them a new forum post. Plan A failed. Archive 1 says regroup tomorrow. Carla, pouring coffee, looked at them with fierce determination. You're not alone. The East Side's with you. Daniel nodded, his eyes on Isaiah's USB. The shadows of Ashwood's corruption were deep, but with Maya, Norah, and a growing coalition, he felt the first sparks of hope. Tomorrow, they'd face Hayes' next move, but tonight, under Juniper Lane streetlights, they prepared for battle. October 14, 2025, Ashwood, Texas, 6:30 a.m. The morning broke over Ashwood with a brittle clarity, the hill country's rolling. Hills bathed in a pale light that did little to warm the tension gripping the town. Special Agent Daniel Bennett stood on the porch of Chief Maya Torres' Juniper Lane home, his breath visible in the crisp air, his eyes fixed on the streetlights still glowing faintly against the dawn. The events of the past 48 hours, the confrontation at Khan's bakery, the Molotov cocktail at Javier Morales' coffee shop, the gunshot at the council meeting had turned Ashwood into a battleground. The viral video of Officer Ethan Caldwell's aggression toward Daniel had ignited national outrage, with hashtags like #Ashwood profiling trending alongside vitriolic defenses of the police. From Victor Hayes' loyalists, the anonymous threats back, off, Bennett, or Norah Pace had grown bolder, and Daniel's grip tightened on his coffee mug. His thoughts on his daughter, Norah, who was inside, combing through the Shield of Valor forum for more evidence of Hayes' conspiracy. The USB drive from Daniel's father, Isaiah, labeled Ironclad, had revealed financial ties between Hayes' company and the hate crimes plaguing the East Side. But tonight's community meeting at Ashwood Civic Center would be the crucible where truth and lies collided. Hayes, the former police chief turned defense contractor, sat at the center of a web of corruption, and with Maya, Norah, and a coalition of East Side residents like Aisha Khan and Javier Morales, Daniel was determined to bring it crashing down. Under the shattered sky of Ashwood, the fight for justice was about to reach its breaking point. Inside, the kitchen was a hive of activity. Carla Torres setting out plates of migas and fresh tortillas, her calm efficiency a counterpoint to the storm brewing outside. You're going to need strength for tonight, she said, her voice steady, but her eyes betraying the strain of the brick thrown through her community center's window yesterday, a warning tied to Maya's defiance. Daniel nodded, his mind on the Civic Center meeting, where he and Maya planned to present their evidence, Ironclad Solutions financial records, forum posts from Archive 1, confirmed as Hayes planning attacks, and witness testimonies from Aisha, Javier, and others. Norah, her laptop open, looked up from a thread she decrypted. Dad, they're panicking on the forum. Archive 1 posted at 3 a.m. Tonight's our last chance. Disrupt the meeting or Bennett wins. They're planning something big. Maya, buckling her Dewey belt, frowned. They've tried bricks, fire, and a gunshot. What's next? Daniel's jaw tightened. Whatever it is, we'll be ready. The morning unfolded in a blur of preparation. Daniel drove to the FBI's temporary command post, a rented office space on Ashwood's outskirts, where Special Agent Marcus Reed was coordinating a team from Houston. Reed's desk was a chaos of monitors and printouts, his sharp eyes scanning data from Ironclad's accounts. "Bennett, we've got a gold mine," he said, sliding a folder across. "Wire transfers to Hayes' offshore account to $0.3 million over 5 years, and Councilman Klein, he's getting $50,000 a month through a shell company called Lone Star Holdings. It's RICO territory." Daniel flipped through the documents, his pulse quickening. This ties Hayes to the hate crimes, vandalism, arson, all the tank property. Values for Ironclad's land grabs. Reed nodded. "We also traced the Shield of Valor server to a warehouse owned by Hayes' cousin. He's careless, thinks he's untouchable." Daniel's mind flashed to Isaiah's USB. The memo about Hayes protecting someone big. "He's not untouchable," Daniel said. "Not tonight." Back at the police station, Maya faced the department teetering on collapse. Officers Bryant, Delgado, and Walsh were in custody after the coffee shop fire and safe house attack, their arrests sending shockwaves through the ranks. The silver-pinned symbols of loyalty to Hayes were scarce today, but Maya knew the old guard's influence lingered. She called a closed-door meeting with her most trusted officers, Nguyen, Lopez, and Patel, a young recruit with a law degree. "Tonight's meeting is make or break," she told them. "FBI's providing security, but I need you to keep the crowd safe. No slip-ups." Patel, his face grim, nodded. "Chief, some officers are whispering. They say Hayes has dirt on the mayor, maybe even the DA. They're scared he'll drag them down with him." Maya's eyes narrowed. "Let them talk. We've got evidence, and we're going public, across town." Norah took risks Daniel had forbidden. At a coffee shop on the east side, she met Sarah Coleman, a 35-year-old former assistant to Hayes, who'd quit after uncovering his shady deals. Sarah, her blonde hair pulled into a tight bun, slid a USB drive across the table. "These are emails from Hayes' private server," she whispered, glancing around. "Orders to Caldwell and his crew, targeting East Side businesses. He even mentions your grandfather's case, said it was handled to keep the council quiet." Norah's heart raced as she saved the files to her laptop. "Why risk this, Sarah?" Sarah stared into her tea. "I grew up on the East Side. My neighbors are black, Latino, and Muslim. I saw what Hayes did to them. When I heard about you and your dad, I couldn't stay silent." Norah nodded, her resolve hardening. "We'll make sure this gets out." Daniel, unaware of Norah's meeting, was at the new safe house with Aisha and Zarikon. The apartment was sparse but fortified, guarded by two FBI agents. Aisha, knitting a scarf to calm her nerves, looked up as Daniel entered. "Any news on Javier's shop?" she asked. Daniel nodded. "We've got Brian in custody for the fire, but he's not talking yet. We need you and Javier to speak tonight." Aisha's hands stilled. "I'm scared, Agent Bennett. Not for me, but for Zara." Zara, sketching on the couch, spoke up. "I'm not afraid, and Aisha, we can't let them win." Daniel admired the teenager's fire, so like Norah's. "You're right, Zara, but we'll keep you safe. The FBI and Chief Torres have your back." By noon, Ashwood was a tinderbox of public opinion. Social media was ablaze, with hashtag Justice for Bennett trending alongside hashtag Back the Badge posts defending Caldwell. A local radio station aired an interview with Caldwell, now on paid leave, claiming he was protecting the community from a suspicious individual. Daniel, listening at the command post, shook his head. "He's rewriting history." Reed, analyzing Caldwell's body camera footage, snorted. "No kidding, the camera was off. But we pulled street cam footage. You didn't make a single threatening move, Bennett. He's done." Maya faced her crisis. Captain Hensley, Hayes' former protege, cornered her in her office. "Maya, you're tearing this department apart," she said, her voice low but sharp. "Caldwell's a loose cannon, but he's one of ours. You're siding with the feds over your people." Maya met her gaze, unflinching. "My people are Ashwood citizens, Laura. If you're shielding Hayes, you're the problem." Hensley's face hardened, but she left without a word. Maya's phone buzzed with a text from Patel. Hensley met Hayes at Rusty's bar, looked intense. Maya forwarded it to Daniel, who was now at the Civic Center, overseeing security for the meeting. "Hayes is moving pieces." He texted back, "Watch your 6, the Civic Center, a low brick building with a mural of Ashwood's iconic oak tree. buzzed with anticipation as the 7 p.m. meeting approached. FBI agents and state troopers patrolled the perimeter, their presence a stark reminder of the stakes. Inside, Daniel and Maya set up a table with microphones, joined by State Attorney General Rachel Kim and County Prosecutor Elena Vasquez, both reform advocates. Hayes sat in the front row, flanked by Councilman Klein and a high-priced lawyer. From Dallas, Mayor Carter, his face ashen, took a seat at the edge, avoiding eye contact. The crowd was a mix of East Side residents, Black, Latino, South Asian, many victims of police harassment and West Side locals, some wearing silver pins, others holding signs demanding justice. Maya opened the meeting, her voice steady but commanding. "Thank you for being here. What happened to Special Agent Bennett at Khan's Bakery wasn't an isolated incident. It's part of a pattern of misconduct in our police department, one we're here to expose and end." The room fell silent, the weight of her words settling over the crowd. Hayes's lawyer stood, objecting. "This is a witch hunt, not justice. My client deserves due process." The racially charged term drew gasps, but Maya didn't flinch. "This isn't a trial, counselor. It's about transparency. Ashwood deserves the truth." Daniel took the microphone, his presence a quiet force. "My team has uncovered evidence of systemic abuse within the Ashwood Police Department, dating back years. Complaints from minority residents were dismissed at a rate 90% higher than those from white residents. Businesses on the East Side owned by immigrants like Aisha Khan and Javier Morales were targeted with vandalism, arson, and threats, followed by land purchases by Ironclad Solutions, a company led by Victor Hayes. A large screen displayed bank records, wire transfers, and Shield of Valor posts, each piece a nail in Hayes' coffin. The crowd murmured, some in shock, others in anger. Hayes' face remained impassive, but his knuckles whitened on his chair. Aisha Khan spoke next, her voice trembling, but resolute. "My family came to Ashwood for a better life. But when I refused to sell my bakery, I got threats, bricks through my windows, and police cruisers circling my home. Officer Caldwell was one of them. Javier Morales followed, his eyes blazing. My coffee shop was my father's dream. They burned it down because I wouldn't bow. This isn't about one bad cop, it's about a system that protects them." The room erupted, some cheering, others shouting slurs. A woman in a silver pen stood, yelling, "You're tearing this town apart." Maya banged her gavel, but the tension was electric. Norah, seated in the back, texted Daniel, "Hayes' people are moving." Saw Delgado's brother slip out. Daniel's instincts kicked in. He signaled Reed, who was monitoring security feeds. "Check the exits. We've got a problem." Before Reed could respond, a fire alarm blared. Smoke pouring from a trash can in the lobby, a crude distraction. Daniel grabbed Maya, pulling her behind the table. As FBI agents rushed to secure the room, outside, a black SUV sped away, but not before Reed's team caught its plate, a vehicle registered to Hayes' cousin. "They're trying to derail this," Daniel said, his voice grim, "but we're not stopping." The fire was quickly extinguished, a Molotov cocktail rigged to cause panic rather than damage. Maya took the microphone, her voice cutting through the chaos. "This is what they do: intimidate, distract, destroy. But we're not backing down." The crowd, shaken but defiant, settled back into their seats. Attorney General Kim stepped forward, her presence commanding. "Based on the evidence presented, my office is launching a criminal investigation into civil rights violations by the Ashwood Police Department. Officers Caldwell, Bryant, Delgado, Walsh, and others will face charges, as will civilian officials complicit in this scheme." Hayes' lawyer objected, but his protests were drowned out by applause. Then came the bombshell. Norah, against Daniel's orders, had slipped into the sound booth with Sarah Coleman, who'd brought a recording from Hayes' private server. With Maya's nod, they played it over the speakers, a conversation between Hayes and Caldwell, captured months ago. "Keep the East Side scared, Ethan. Those people don't belong here. Ironclad's counting on us." Hayes' voice was unmistakable, his use of slurs chilling. The room fell silent, the weight of betrayal palpable. An elderly black woman, Rosa Hernandez, stood, her voice shaking. "That's the same voice that stopped my grandson last year, tore his car apart for no reason. When I complained, they said there was no record." Her words unleashed a flood. Residents stood one by one, sharing stories of harassment, searches, fear, a Latina teacher described. Students stopping for walking while brown. A Somali shop owner recounted threats after refusing to sell. Each story built a mosaic of systemic abuse. Hayes, his face pale, stood to leave, but FBI agents blocked his path. "You're not going anywhere, Mr. Hayes," Reed said, his voice cold. "We have a warrant." As agents cuffed him, the crowd erupted, some cheering, others shouting in protest. Mayor Carter, cornered by reporters, stammered, "I did not know about these activities." But the financials on the screen, his signatures on Ironclad's contracts, told a different story. Daniel took the microphone, his voice steady. "This isn't about revenge. It's about justice. For Aisha, for Javier, for my father, Isaiah, who died because men like Hayes thought they were above the law. Ashwood can be better, but only if we face the truth." The meeting ended with Hayes and Klein escorted out in cuffs, their lawyer trailing, shouting about due process. Outside, the crowd split. East Side residents chanting for justice. West Side supporters of Hayes hurling insults. Daniel and Maya stood together, their faces grim but resolute. Norah joined them, her laptop tucked under her arm. "Dad, we did it," she said, her voice a mix of exhaustion and triumph. Daniel shook his head. "Not yet. This was the battle, not the war." By midnight, Ashwood was a national story. The arrest of Hayes, Caldwell, and their allies dominated headlines, with networks calling it a reckoning for small-town corruption. Daniel, back at Maya's house, sat with Isaiah's USB, the weight of his father's death lifting slightly. Carlisle poured coffee, her voice soft. "You'd have changed this town tonight." Maya shook her head. "We started the change, the real. Work's just beginning." Norah, scrolling through social media, grinned. "The East Side's organizing. Dad, they're planning a community watch, a civilian oversight board. Aisha and Javier are leading it." Daniel nodded, pride swelling for his daughter and the town he'd once left behind. The next morning, Daniel addressed a new class of police cadets at the Civic Center, the same room where the meeting had unfolded. "The badge you'll wear is a promise," he told them, his voice carrying the weight of his experience. "Not to power, but to service. You answer to every citizen, no matter their race or address." The cadets, a diverse group reflecting Ashwood's changing face, listened intently. Among them was Zara Khan, who decided to apply to the academy. Inspired by Aisha's courage, outside, Maya unveiled the Ashwood Accord, a reform package, mandatory body cameras, de-escalation training, a civilian review board with teeth. National advocates praised it, and cities across Texas reached out to learn more. 3 months later, Ashwood was transforming. Hayes and his allies faced federal charges: RICO, civil rights violations, conspiracy. Mayor Carter resigned, replaced by Javier Morales, who ran on a platform of transparency. Aisha's bakery reopened, its windows now adorned with a mural of Ashwood's diverse faces. Daniel, on temporary assignment with the FBI's Community Relations Division, stayed in Maya's guest room, working late with her to implement reforms. Norah, back at college, published an expose on the Shield of Valor Forum, earning a journalism award and a flood of internship offers. At a weekly dinner on Maya's porch, Daniel and Maya sat in rocking chairs, watching a new patrol car, rolled by a black officer and a Latino recruit, both trained under the new model. "Think we made a difference, Maya?" Daniel asked, echoing their college dreams. She raised her lemonade in a toast. "We kept our promise, Danny. Not perfectly, but we moved the needle." Under the streetlights, Ashwood was healing, its shadows giving way to light.